right? Quote, and this is straight from the article. You guys can go check the article out over on Packers.com. Adversity is the norm in the National Football League. Let me write this down real quick. I apologize. Adversity is the norm in the National Football League, and I'm extremely proud of how our team has handled many challenges. Last season, we struggled within our division, and this year we improved 4-1. We've persevered through a litany of injuries and a very challenging schedule and placed ourselves in a position to compete for our ultimate goal, a Super Bowl championship. Now, why am I bringing this up? As we've said here this year, Matt LaFleur has kind of been on the – I don't want to say he's been on the hot seat, but there's a portion of the fan base that seem to think that he should be on the hot seat, right? You guys know I am like so anti that opinion. It's not even funny, but we like to give people a platform, an area where they can voice their opinion in the comments. You guys let us know how you feel about this situation. If you were to take that quote, and he's not specifically speaking about Matt LaFleur, but just reading that quote, do you think that Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat, or do you think this sounds like no, he's good to go? They're probably going to look to put together a contract extension, or do you think they let him go into this year, the final year of his deal, him and Goody both, and now you got to worry about coaches leaving this offseason if they get a similar offer somewhere because they're going, man, my coaches, they haven't extended him yet, right? There's a complacency that comes with that as well, but also you get other coaches get a little bit nervous, like, hey, this guy's offering me a better deal. They got a better team. They're in a better situation. I'm going to take that because they're refusing to extend the guy who employed me here. There's a little bit of that comes into play as well in terms of business. But again, adversity is the norm in the National Football League, and I'm extremely proud of our team and how they handle many challenges. I agree with that take. I completely agree with that quote right there. Guys, I said it earlier when the injuries really started to pile up. You're kind of running out of gas. Now, it's different if you go into the season and you're the middle of the road in terms of veterans on your team. Let's say you're 15th, the 15th youngest team in the league. Okay, we got enough veteran presence. Maybe we can navigate through this. When you've got the youngest football roster in the league, and I know there's a portion of the fan base that don't want to hear this, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving my opinion. What do we expect? What do we expect? The typical argument is, yeah, but these guys have a lot of experience. They're a young team, but they've got a lot of experience. That's true. What about the guys behind them, right? What about the guys behind them? Because think of it this way. On another roster in the league, if Romeo Doubs is the fourth best wide receiver and he's waiting in the wings and he's shown you what he can do in the past, you feel a lot better about, one or two receivers going down because we got Doubs kind of coming in, right? Well, in this case, who's gotten the majority of the targets? Because Matthew Golden's been banged up. People don't want to mention that with Matthew Golden getting a lack of targets. And I think Matthew Golden's going to be fine, but I think there's a lot of factors that have come into play. And I think Golden might have an opportunity here in the playoffs to shine. And that would be awesome if he had a breakout in the playoffs, right? But how many times have we seen it with the game on the line? You're throwing the pass to Bo Melton, right? So it's like, at some point, what's the most important position on defense, in my opinion? It's 3-tech. Who's our 3-tech? Devontae White. Devontae White's been hurt for how many weeks now on IR? Okay, who's his backup? Kobe Wooden, late round pick. Warren Brinson, was he a 5th or a 6th round pick this year? Right? Those are both young. Carl Brooks, right? Carl Brooks, well, he's got 3 years of experience. He does, but he was a late round pick as well, right? He wasn't a 1st or a 2nd round pick. You wasn't expecting him to come in and be a starter, a dominant starter. So you're wondering why the defense is taking a step back. There you go. Right. So again, that's the problem with the youth of the roster. And I think that Ed Policy is acknowledging that here, right? That you faced a lot of adversity, right? He also goes on, like I said, that second part of that quote there. Last season we struggled within our division, and this year we improved 4-1. That's a factual statement. And really the one loss, do we need to recount how many players we went into that game missing, and then how many players went out in that game as well, right? With that loss to the Bears. So I think there's a decent chance the Vikings beat us tomorrow because we're sitting a lot of starters and trying to get everybody healthy for the playoffs. The Vikings, they don't really have anything to lose, although they're probably looking at the same way. Like, if somebody's a little banged up, let's sit them down and get a better draft pick, right? If we lose the game. So there's a decent chance the Packers win this game, even with our backups, the majority of our backups playing. But the reality is, if you lose that game tomorrow, you went 4-2 in the division. That's pretty damn good in the division. A division which, by the way, people were talking about going in the season the year before, dominant division. This year, kind of down. And then by the end of the year, go, wow, the Bears are one of the better teams in the NFC. So all of a sudden the division's back up. The Packers are one of the better teams in the NFC. We were the number 2 seed with what? 3 or 4 weeks to go in the season before all the injuries really piled up. So I think that's an accurate statement there. And again, the portion of the fan base, this is just an excuse and blah, blah, blah. You can continue to live in that fairy tale land. But the reality is every year when our roster is built, I say on this podcast, and it's just how I fan, I look up and go, damn it, we got the youngest roster again. Some fans get excited about that. Me, I can't get excited about that because I know the odds are stacked against you to win a Super Bowl that year. So with that being said, I hope we add a couple of key veterans this year and maybe, put us as the 4th or 5th youngest team in the league, right? So you can kind of get out of that bottom spot there because it is a young man's sport. Don't get me wrong, but damn, boys, sooner or later, you're going to have to do something different if you want a different result in that regard. You can't just go in every year with the youngest roster and expect to just set the world on fire, right? So he also said we persevered with a litany of injuries. So true. We've talked about that ad nauseum this year, so I completely agree with that. The amount of injuries that Matt LaFleur's had to deal with, that's why when they started calling for his job, I'm like, boys, are we even looking at who we've got on the football field right now? And Matt LaFleur was, stringing together a couple wins here or there and just patching it together. I mean, for God's sakes, you started the season, Tucker Kraft was your leading receiver. He was looking dominant, right? You lose him, bang, he's out. So now you got to go to more of a flex approach with Musgrave, who's more of a receiver than a true balanced tight end. You bring in Josh Wiley, and he kind of becomes a little bit of a focal point in terms of the blocking, the sifting, things like that. There was not a team in the league that felt Josh Wiley was worthy of a starting tight end spot in the league. And here you went and plugged him in. He caught a touchdown, I think, in his first game, and he's making key blocks. We were highlighting it on Chalk Talk all year. I thought Matt LaFleur done a great job given the hand he was dealt, and I think that's why he looks comfortable at the podium. Some people don't like that complacency. I was reading somebody on X the other day. I can't believe. I love how they talk like they're the football guru. That stuff drives me crazy when people pretend like they know more than the top 32 individuals in the entire world at managing a roster or coaching a team. They talk from this authority like Matt LaFleur, this guy. But the guy went on to say in the tweet that he was just could not believe that the Packers are approaching this Week 18 game the way they are. Like it doesn't matter if we win or not. What's more important, being as healthy as you can for the playoffs or winning Week 18 and us looking up again like we did 2 weeks ago and go, boys, we can't compete with the way the roster is right now and how banged up people are. So that's just my opinion. But I agree with what Ed Policy said here. I know he's going to catch a lot of hell for it from the negative portion of the fan base. But, man, to me, I think everything he said here was accurate. I really do. I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. If you're watching this back later, let me know and let us know. Let's have a conversation. Hop in there and let's talk about it. How do you feel about Ed Policy's comment? Everybody, as long as everybody's respectful, everybody's opinion is welcome here, right? I agree with what he said, and I am excited about the future. And who knows, maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle here. This is how it was in 2010. I'd kind of wrote them off as a fan in 2010, like, boys, this is going to be an uphill battle. And then they catch fire going into the playoffs, and bang, you're off and running, right? So let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Let's see when we go live.